Today, on Unveiling Voices, we have the honor of speaking with Davies, a true trailblazer. She holds the distinction of being the first African American female to complete probation and become a full-time firefighter for the city of Los Angeles. Delisa will be sharing her incredible journey with us. Welcome to Delisa. How are you today?
Fine, enjoying this nice rainy weather.
Good. Could you give the audience a little bit about your background? You were in the military. You have a professional career outside of the fire department, and you're a business owner. So, could you go just give us a brief description of your journey to the fire service?
To put it briefly, my family, we immigrated here from Arizona in 68. My dad wanted us to have more opportunity than we had in Arizona. Because I was growing up in Arizona in the 50s, 60s during the Goldwater years. So just giving everybody a little background on that. And we came out here and it was more opportunity for not only him, but for our family as well. I like sports. There was no sports in Arizona. So when I got out here, girls could play sports, even with the boys, which was so cool. So my educational background was basically geared towards physical education, but I liked coaching. And so I went more towards recreation. And then when it turned in terms of coaching at different levels, like high school, intramural, and things like that, I wanted to learn even more. And that was when I changed to kinesiology. I had a stint with Parks and Recs. And then when Prop 13 came and killed those programs, then I went into the military. And so that's
Tell us
where,
a little bit about kinesiology.
Kinesiology is basically the study of the body movement and motions. And what I do is I try to look at how a person is approaching a motion, be it basketball, softball, volleyball, anything like that. And I try to refine that with their traits to make them more successful. And I liked working at the freshman level so that I knew that once I finished with them, then they would be at varsity.
Wow.
Proof of it was my daughter.
Oh, cool.
My daughter was my proof.
So, are you retired right now?
I'm retired from the fire department, but not retired from working. I still work for CalJack. I'm a proctor in terms of the written exam and as well as the physical agilities, but I'm also a commissioner to recruit women. So I still do that. And then I help with the Metro Fire Academy. I'm an instructor there. I do the basics there, teaching them the basic fundamentals of our equipment, things like that, and then kicking them up so they have more fun at the upper levels. And other than that, it's like I own a business. And I'm busy.
I love how you inspired women to come on the job, being the first female Black firefighter. And you're still inspiring women to come on the job. On an even higher level, commission level, that's admirable, Delisa. Tell me, what was your journey to joining the fire department? Did you have a hard time doing it?
Actually, they caught me after I had came back from the military. But my first contact with fire was I was coming home. I was in college, around 73, 74. And I was coming home and there was a traffic accident. So they had everybody all stop while they were going into their little action and they were doing an extrication and they started bringing out all these cool tools. Oh my goodness, I was starting to get excited, hyperventilating and things because my uncles were masons, my dad was a mechanic. So I'm like, look at the size of that thing, that kind of thing. And it was like crazy. I was like, oh my God. And so I asked them if it was possible if they were recruiting. I asked them how I could become a firefighter. And they told me all I had to do was fill out an interest card and just apply. So I did, not knowing that back then they had no intention of hiring me. So that's the reason why I didn't get a call back.
There were no women on the job at that time, right? No women on the fire department.
No, they were basically paramedics. They were only female paramedics and they were civilians at that point. They weren't sworn. And so because they never called me and I had no job with Prop 13, then I just went into the military. They were hiring. And that's where my journey kind of like took a side road. But I believed that I needed that discipline so that when I came to the fire department, um, it would be more beneficial for everybody because of I was disciplined.
So when did you finally get on?
I when I got back in '79, I worked in the private industry, but I got on the department in '84. I would have came on in '83, but I was pregnant with my daughter. And so I was like, oh, now they're going to do it. So I waited until she was old enough. And then I started preparing to do it because I knew I could do it. I mean, I was fresh out the Army. There was nothing that I didn't think I could do. And plus, that was something my dad instilled in us is that unless you try, how do you know you can't do it? And he expected you to at least brush yourself off at least once because you might not have known and now you know, so try it again type thing. So if it wasn't for you, it wasn't for you. But I knew I could do this. Yeah, that was right up my alley.
And you had a desire
Something I
early
could do.
on
Oh yeah.
before women
Anything
were even
physical, I'm for it.
firefighters. Oh, that's great. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what did it mean to you? I mean, tell me about the process of becoming a firefighter. What did you do? How did you come on? You put in your interest card?
I put in the interest card, and then the thing about it is I had gotten hired at this portable exhibit firm, and so the security was there for me and my daughter because I was a single parent at the time. And I guess the fire department really, really wanted me, and they started calling my boss, and so then she fired me. And she said it was for my own good.
And she was
She
right.
wanted, yeah, she wanted me to experience that because she knew I could do it as well. And so she fired me, and then I went into the fire department. But I almost didn't come to fire. I almost because the FBI was courting me really hard because of my clearance level in the military. And they guaranteed me to transfer over or lateral over to a position there as a GS9. And they only go to 13. So I was like, don't
Wow,
have to stop
already
at the
pretty up
bottom.
there, right?
Oh, yeah. So I was like, oh, that's cool. But well, my grandmother, she had a heart attack and needed somebody to take care of her. So I was like, family first. So I took care of my grandmother. And then after she passed, and I started pursuing it again. And but I just needed to make sure that I had something that was going to give me the stability as a single parent to take care of my daughter and me.
Wow.
So it was different. And even when I was going to the training in Westlake, it was a little different because I couldn't come at regular times. So I would drop her off at the center, and then I would ride my bike all the way from 54th and Arlington all the way to Westlake so that I could work out at 5 o'clock in the morning with this PD guy because that's the only time that I could come. And then I would ride my bike back down to work. And I did that for a while. And then when I was selected for the class, then I was in very good shape because
Because
me
you're
and that
riding bikes and
bicycle.
working out.
Oh, yeah. And then she was on the back, and it was like, her backpack on the back, mine in the front, and diapers tied onto the handlebars. It was pretty comical. And here we are, 4 o'clock in the morning,
It is
riding
admirable.
down to
It's
the center. It
admirable.
was crazy, but it got me in shape. But I think too that the military discipline, because they wanted to check my temperature because every time we were running, I always wanted to hop the fence and do the obstacle course, and they thought I was a little strange.
I didn't think you were wrapped too
But
tight.
it was like it was some trees and some fences, and it was like that was right up my alley. It was like
That was
climbing.
fun.
Oh my god! Oh yeah, man, I love climbing stuff. But oh yeah, so that the physical part was easy because I like stuff like that because I do river rafting, zip lining, jet skiing. I like all that stuff.
Wow.
So any adrenaline is like I'm with it. I'm with it.
I have a
So I
cousin like
was
that.
it was yeah, I was primed for it. Basically primed for it.
So what do you do
And you
now?
don't want
What do you do now
me.
that you're to help women to get on the job? What are you doing right now?
Basically, most of the work I do is through the commission. And what I do is I meet people by proctoring the written exam. I work with them as they're coming in. And then I will see them again if I proctor a CPAT or a physical abilities test. But mainly, my main contact is with them when they first come in and start taking the written exams. And from there, I pass on my information, and then they'll make contact with me, and then I'll continue providing them with any information that they need. They need free seminars. I try to give them that information. If I know where they can get recycled or salvageable turnouts, things like that, I try to do that. I'm notorious for redoing or editing resumes, giving them pointers in interviews, setting them up for mock orals, things like that. So until you tell me to knock it off, it's like I mentor them until they tell me they don't need me anymore. And I have people on the job now that are studying for captain, and I'm still helping them. And so that makes me feel good that they trust me enough to keep coming back.
Tell me about some of the assignments you had on the fire department, the ones you're most proud of.
As a firefighter, where I felt I did the most benefit was in recruitment, where a lot of the programs that we established are still there, like the physical agilities preparation, the mentoring program, the interview prep, and the mock orals. And those programs are still there because there was an agreement between fire and personnel that they wanted those programs there, and they helped structure them to what they wanted them to be. What we did was just introduce it, and there wasn't that much tweaking that needed to be done. It was just that I think they were trying to make sure that they have full power and not fire, taking that away from them, because I know they try to take it away from us, and I wasn't giving it. But then in terms of when I was promoted, uh, I think the most it was kind of like twofold, because when I was in legal,
Excuse me.
yes,
You said when you were promoted, you went
yes,
from firefighter to captain.
yes.
Most people
It
don't
was
go
a
from
20-year struggle,
firefighter to
believe me.
captain. They go from firefighter to inspector, firefighter to engineer, firefighter to anything, but they don't go straight from listening to a captain to being a captain. That's amazing, Delisa.
I think I was prepared because I had studied. I had tried to go through those different levels, but they just weren't gonna promote me. So
Which
I
ones
just
did you
kept showing
test
up.
for?
I took the engineer's test once. I took the AO's exam 3 times. I even placed as high as would always fail me on the interview over whatever, whatever.
How does joining the fire department differ when you came on to the present?
Number 4 on the list, and I still didn't get promoted. And then I took the captain's exam 5 times. And each time, although I passed the written and the practicals, in the beginning, it was different when they were recruiting women into the fire department. Mainly, if you had a college degree, at least a 2-year or above, you didn't have to take a written because they thought that you were academically able to handle any of the written exams or anything like that. You just had to pass the physical agility test and then take your oaths. Today, it depends on if you're getting hired with a small department or a large department and their budgetary issues. Larger departments are able to provide the training so that when you go through the academy and probation, you're getting your firefighter 1, firefighter 2, and your firefighter 3. If you are trying to apply with a smaller department, they expect you to have that certification because they don't have the budgetary backing to provide that. So when they hire you, they're only going to provide their policies and procedures that you have to abide by and training with their tools and equipment. Your firefighter 1 cert, you already have that, so you don't have to worry about that. So that's basically the difference between then and now. When we came on, or when I came on, it was no monetary factor. Now you're responsible for a lot more things.
So basically, you have to be EMT certified before you could even be considered for the job. And you got
Yes,
to be
that is a
physically
requirement.
fit, certified before you can even apply for the job.
Yes, because with the physical agility test that is being utilized right now, that's considered a baseline evaluator of your physical abilities, and then whatever that department requires, then you have to meet those physical requirements. But it's very, very competitive now. And my main focus is making sure that women and minorities are prepared because we don't have the advantage of having family members there to guide us and take us by the hand and lead us to the finish line. So it's totally, totally different now.
Totally different. During your career, how how did you help change those conditions in the fire department? The
We
conditions for women so that we could be better accepted, so that we could have better work environment. How did you contribute to those changes?
One of the main things that we try to get them to understand is the way they instructed women because we process a little bit differently, and so a lot of times all you got to do is tell me this is what it is, this is what it does, this is what it's supposed to do at the end. All right. And the way they were presenting it, they were doing hodgepodge. They was like, okay, this is what it's supposed to do. That's what it is. And it was so confusing. And then once they figured out how to instruct us, then it was totally, totally different.
A
The
lot of people don't
other thing
recognize that you
was
have different learning styles, and that is so important.
exactly. Yes, exactly. Some are visual learners, some can read and can figure it out, and there's others I gotta touch it. But it's it's just it's just so different now.
What were your challenges in the fire department, Delisa? I
They're
look at you like you're
they're
superwoman, but I know you have some
hey,
challenges. Just
oh, I
having
had
an infant while you're going through the department. You had a child and you were riding the bike to work out early in the morning
it was
on the hope of
actually my
getting a
first
job.
station. At my first station, I was still riding the bike because I didn't have a car. And one of the guys, he sold me his wife's truck because she was pregnant and he wanted to get her an SUV. So he sold me her truck. I was like, okay, at least we were off the bike now. But a lot of the challenges, it wasn't the physical aspect. It was just that as a woman, how they visualized us or process how we learn things and do things, or how each individual woman is different in how they do things like that. They had no concept of that. And it was kind of strange because it's okay, you're recruiting women, but you weren't preparing yourself to recruit women, that kind of thing. And so we had to kind of like start from scratch. It took 15 years after we were on just to get the separate bathrooms. And that was kind of weird because it depended on the type of station. If you had one that had the gang showers and the gang dorms, that's where you were. And I was in several of those. If you had a new, what they considered a newer station where there was maybe 4 people, 2 to 4 people assigned to a room, then that was more progressive. But you still had issues when it comes to the gang showers because it was still that mentality. Uniforms was another issue. It was just them understanding females in general and trying to compute that. You'd be surprised some of the conversations that I had with some of the guys. It was very different.
I can imagine, and we'll
Just trying to
talk
get them
about
to
those at a
understand.
later date. Because I'm sure you have a whole
Oh,
bunch
it
of
was
stories.
different. It
I
was
know.
different. Definitely
Would you inspire
different.
any young women to come on this job right now, even though it's difficult, even though it's challenging physically and mentally? Would you would you invite them to come on this job, or would you prefer that they do something else, become a police officer? Because you just need a GED and a high school diploma and a clean service record, and you can become a police officer, and they make pretty good money comparable to the fire department.
Yeah, but it just depends on your mentality and what you want to do. Women, they can do whatever they put their minds to. They just have to believe it. And I tell everybody, and they kind of know. It's like I steal from every department. I've stole from DWP, the building trades, other departments. I do not care if I see somebody that I think has the
Potential.
the grit for no the grit for
Mm.
LAFD. then I want them here because I'm trying to make a statement. I only want strong women here because we still are trying to develop stages for that are conducive for women, especially minority women. And right now, the mentality and the attitude is still not there. Just trying to be heard is an issue, and that's one of the things that I found out was lacking. Was once I was promoted, being heard and trying to get things done. That was a real challenge. A real
So how did you get
challenge.
things done?
I kind of cheated, and
Just like you were stealing people from other departments. What did you do?
oh yeah, what a smile! But no, it was like because by then it was like I had already known that I had a target on my back and they didn't want to hear or know or absorb anything that I had to say, do or whatever or contribute. And so I've said it before. I just put a mustache on it. There were people that I knew in the department that trusted the level of investigation and analyzing things and putting things together. They trusted me so that when I asked them, "Hey, dude, can you do this for me?" They would run with it because they knew that all they had to do was just stand there and do what I told them to do and bring me back the information so that I can document it and do the statistical analysis where we had to tweak things and things like that. But hey, that was the easier way to do it because nobody wanted to hear what the little black girl said, but that was okay. That was
Right,
okay.
because one thing people don't really understand about women is we don't necessarily want the recognition. We just want to get it done.
We want to get it
And if
done.
you need the recognition, you can have it. Just make sure you get it done.
The thing
I
about it
love
is
that.
okay. What makes me more excited is knowing that it's something that needed to be done, and we got it done. And it didn't make any difference if who got the accolades, but it was we were recognized for the effort and the ability to make it happen. And like I said, if we some of the things that we did in legal was a prime example of working at a higher level and not we didn't get the recognition, but also we were looking at the liability to the city and we just wanted to make sure that the city wasn't liable, fire department wasn't liable, and we did our job. And that's all we cared about. That's all we cared about.
Delisa, what do you do now that you're retired? I know you're on a whole bunch of boards. You already mentioned that.
Something that you don't want me to get bored. That's all I gotta say. I can find trouble if I don't have anything to do. But I own a health food store. My daughter runs that. I help out whenever I can. And then we do the consulting work. We try to help people that are having issues with fire code violations. We help them get back into compliance. And then I still do the recruitment work with the Jack. So I'm pretty full and other little projects here, there, everywhere. I'm always doing something.
Delisa, tell us the steps it took for you to come on the department. You mentioned Westlake, riding a bike with your daughter on your back to lift weights. What was Westlake? They don't really understand what Westlake is. So when you said you were riding your bike from 57 to Wilshire and what is that? Alvarado, that's a hike.
Yeah.
And you had an infant with you? I mean, that's something that you can't just glance over, Delisa. The grit that you said that you were looking for the best for the fire department because you wanted people that had grit. You don't even care if they met the qualifications. You wanted to make sure that they had the stick to itiveness to stay in because you had the stick to it stay in.
Yeah,
You're
but I
not,
don't expect them to stick to it like me, but
I know, but the
they're
point
here.
is, no one can be you. You were the first one. And the reason you were the first is because you were willing to do whatever it took to get on this job. Even before women were accepted, you knew it was yours.
In the beginning, Westlake was a program that they had designed to help women get in shape. And it was basically called a tutorial. And all you did was exercise. And as I stated before, I couldn't come at the regular times. I had to come when I could before my job. So it was like riding my bike to the center, then riding my bike to Westlake, then riding my bike back to work, then back to my sitter, and then home. So that was part of it. Then once we took the oath and we got into the tower was pretty easy for me because it was basically like basic training. And then I was like one of those firefighters that you graduated on Saturday and then Sunday was when you reported. And by the time I had gotten home from the graduation and the party and all that other stuff, I was so wired for sound. I stopped at the sitter, looked at my daughter because she was asleep, and then I went and I sat in the parking lot. I mean, on the apron of the fire station because it was like drive home and then drive back. Why? I was still wired. And so I went straight to the fire station. And it was funny because they assigned me to areas where I grew up in the neighborhood. And that was cool because where my first station was Fire Station 46. And where the station is, it used to be an old abandoned gas station. And we used to park our car there and then walk down Vernon to church. And then if we wanted to go to the store, we'd walk up Hoover. So it was like,
You're
I
at
grew up in that
home.
neighborhood. My aunt lived 2 blocks away, and then her sons lived 2 blocks from her. So it was really cool. And then once I got on, and my uncle, he's calling in all the calls out there shouting, "That's my niece, that's my niece." It was I was just proud because I was representing the Davies clan and it was giving me an opportunity to give back. And then it was funny because once the neighborhood realized who I was, but when I was a kid, they were like, "That's our girl, that's our girl." And it was also funny too because I'd be back on the back of a fire station 46 and I'd see smoke and I'd be like, "Fire!" And everybody is all like on the streets, they were like pointing and doing this here too. It was so cool. And I was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm back in the neighborhood." It was so cool. And then my second house was Fire Station 34. And I was close to my daughter and my sitter. So that was actually really cool being there because we could, going back to the station, we would always stop by and holler at the kids, let everybody see the rig and kind of things like that. And we had a good time. It was a station where no firefighters would um, sign up to be assigned, but I had two explorers that made sure that my experience there was beneficial and they were not going to let me fail.
Oh,
And
good.
then I went to Fire Station 26 after that, and they really didn't really appreciate me being there, but then they were trying
Wow.
to figure out, she's different from it was different because they would look at me and the female that was on the B ship differently, like, why does this one do this and that one does that? It was really weird. And like I said, some of the conversations that I had with some of them, it was like, okay, whatever, dude. At the end, the captains there, they really appreciated some of the things I brought to the table. One thing was I was so used to monitoring the radio from being in the military and listening to traffic because I had to listen for like license plate numbers and things like that for if there was a terrorist car in the vicinity. I was supposed to document that and then make sure I radio that or send that information to whoever, right? And so I was always listening to the radio. So if there was a nice fire going, I would go in there and tell the captain. I was like, "Hey, Captain Ramey or Captain Morris, hey, there's a fire in Culver City." And I was like, he said, "Have they asked for companies?" And I was like, "Not yet, but I'll let you know it." He said, "Okay, when they start talking about it's getting bigger, just let us know." And I was like, "Okay." And then I would tell him, I said, "They're about ready to say, we need additional companies." And he was
That's a
like,
quick
"Mount
trip on the
up."
10 freeway, huh?
Oh man, mount up. And we were hauling down there and it was like, fire. Oh my God. It was great. And we pull up and hey, Fire Station 26 is here and in charge. It was just great. And the training that I got there in terms of building construction, roof ops, being an AO, that's where I fell in love with being an AO. And I started studying when I was there. But even though they knew I was ready for it and I acted in that position, um, they knew I wasn't going to get promoted. But that's okay. I kept showing up. I kept taking the test because I could.
That's why you took that AO's test several times. Several times. And when you realized they were not going to give you those low level positions to propel you to captain, you said, forget it. The book says I can go from firefighter to captain. I'm going to captain. Okay? It's about all those tests you took. Is they prepared you to be a better captain because you can
Well,
supervise
they just
anybody in
prepared
any
me.
of those positions.
Yeah.
Anybody, a AO, an engineer, you got all of that down. If they didn't know that stuff, you knew it because you knew their stuff too. What was one of your most
The
challenging assignments?
the most challenging assignment was when I worked in legal. And that was once I understood what the parameters were, what was expected and what the outcome was supposed to be, then it was okay that I knew what to do with the unit from there. And like I say, I always transfer everything over to the military aspect. One of the things that I learned when I was there was that we had a piece of classified material or equipment that was loaned to us from PD. Okay, now classification was confidential. So that means that there was a security issue there, right? So I'm looking at access being open to everyone, and they're accessing this confidential equipment. So I had to put a kibosh to that. And I even locked out the fire marshal and the assistant fire marshal because it's no, we have to get a kibosh on this because I'm responsible for what's in here. And now we're definitely operating on a military mode. Because even though the fire department doesn't realize confidential is like a low level clearance, but it was existing. And so now we had to treat the information in that room at the confidential level. And the other thing too was to train the inspectors to start thinking at that level. And what that did was it enabled us in our investigations and some of our court cases that we were bringing. We were working with state and the feds. And I think that kind of scared the department because we weren't notifying them because at the level that we were working at, it was a need to know basis. And because we were working that fast. When I was in the military, I had a clearance where I was privy to very top level communications, top secret level and above. And so my job was the intel and gathering that information because we were chasing terrorists across Europe, right? And so now you're putting me in a position where I'm working in a unit where I can use those skills again. Lo and behold, what happened? We identified a terrorist group that was actually working out in Simi Valley.
Wow.
And we identified another group that was working within the city of Los Angeles, but were doing work or blowing up footbridges and small overpasses out in Kern County. And we had a hand in capturing them. And so we, the need to know at our level, we didn't need the dog and pony show. We didn't need the letters. We didn't need the big command structure, all that. We needed to let the people know, the parties know at the level that we were working at, what our game plan was. And we created the strategy and the tactics and we got it done. And
Wow.
we gained a
Working in unity.
reputation. Oh yeah, we gained a reputation of being very thorough in our investigation and our intelligence gathering, to the point where we got recognized for a lot of our work. And I don't think the department was ready for that. And so their answer to that was to transfer me out. But you know what the cool part about it was? It was like, okay, now we're working with EPA, Homeland Security, and things like that. And we were doing all kinds of good work. There was never anything that was negative that was created by our unit. All of our documentation was pristine and concrete. And then when I would call and ask if they wanted to come to a party, they would be like, "Where the party at? Where the party at?" Because everybody wanted a piece because, hey, we were getting ready to do some damage. And like I said, we worked with Homeland Security, EPA, FDA. We worked with all kinds of government entities higher than the local level. And I think that scared the department because we weren't asking permission. We were just getting it done. And I think that scared them and they transferred me. So I was like, that's okay. I'll just take it with me over here. And so I did the same thing over in Cuba because the connections were still there. Because, like I said, a lot of the guys that I worked with in the military, they were in positions. And I was like, oh, I could make a phone call. Say, dude, I need some help with this problem. And his name is, and then they would make that phone call
This is
and
my
then we could
problem's
get a lot of
name.
stuff done. Yeah, it was pretty cool. So it helped us in that sense. And so I think I scared the crap out of the department, but that's okay. That's
Hey,
okay.
you did
But
a lot
anyway,
of good, Delisa. In closing, is there anything you'd like to say?
I just want everybody to know that, hey, the position is for everyone. And I'm trying to do everything that I can to make sure that opportunity gets to minority women and minority men because our numbers are dropping. And there are entities that are out there that are trying to make sure that we're not successful. And it's we basically built this country. What are you talking about? Come on now. Just like women, they don't think that we can. And we have to remind them that during the wars, women ran the country while they were fighting the wars. And then when they came back, we gave them their job back. Some of them back, because some of us still like doing that stuff.
Yeah, some of us
So
didn't have any
it
husbands,
was
so
like
we
that.
had to keep working because they probably
You
killed
had to
them in
keep
the war.
working. No joke. And so it was like, so we know how to bounce back. And that's basically what we do. We always bounce back. And then as a Black female, we know that we have to be 3 times as good just to be considered average. Plain simple.
Wow. Well,
Plain
Delisa, it's
simple.
been a pleasure talking to you, and I thank you for everything you've done for Black history, for American history, and mostly for the generations of Blacks and women who wanted to be firefighters when you were growing up and couldn't be. Thank you for making all of our dream come true.
And I just hope that everybody enjoys the podcast series that we're trying to create so that you can hear other journeys of
Me
Black
too.
females on the job.
Me too.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope our conversation with Delisa has been inspiring for you. In the next episode of Unveiling Voices, she will be interviewing me, Karen Slider, the second African American female firefighter with the City of Los Angeles. Goodbye.
On March 19, 2024, Delisa Davis was officially acknowledged by the Los Angeles Fire Commission for being the first Black female firefighter for the Los Angeles Fire Department.
Thank you for joining us. We encourage you to spread the word to your family, your friends, and your colleagues. Remember, every little bit counts. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube page. You can find the links below. If you have a fire service story to share, we'd love to hear it. Your story can inspire others to take action and make a difference. Reach out to us.